Alhamdulillah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Praise be to God. I bear witness that there is no God but God and He has no partners. So inshallah today we will try to understand the concept of predestination. It's a very difficult matter in the Quran. Although it is a fact, it is very hard for average people or most of us get to fully understand the concept of predestination, because most of us, or as a human beings, we are limited in our ability to look at something from different multi dimensions. We only have one or two dimensions to understand. We don't have understanding of the past, we don't have understanding of the future, we don't know why things happen, we don't know what kind of things are going to happen. So we are limited. So because of that reason, although the Quran speaks about predestination, we may not fully understand it. The more we understand it, the more questions it raises. And then when we try to solve that as questions, then another set of questions occur. So we only have limited understanding of predestination. And the reason is because we are in this physical world. In this physical world, for us to understand, grasp it completely, it's very difficult. But Appendix 14 has given us an idea of what the Quran is teaching us about predestination. However, there is much more to learn about predestination. The appendix is only just showing us certain verses and showing us certain aspects of it. So when I was preparing this, trying to prepare, I wouldn't say I'm preparing this khutbah, I started it and then I had a million questions in my own mind, and each time I tried to find a verse to deal with it, it led to another set of questions. And I finally decided that I'll just go with what the appendix says and not try to research too much on it, because it takes a lot of time. So that essentially tells us that predestination is a very deep concept, a very depth. But what is the point in the Quran trying to teach us this? What is God trying to tell us? If we read the appendix 14, it says that we are absolutely free to believe or disbelieve in God. It is God's will that we will. So we, in our existence here, we exercise free will, right? We have absolute freedom. I'm doing what I feel like, and I say what I feel like. I do these many things according to my own personal will, and so do you. You do everything according to your will. The will you exercised your will when you came here. You decided to, if you're coming from a far off place, you either drive your car or take a cab or take a bus or somewhere. So you exercised your will to come here. So this is what free will is basically. You have the will to exercise your thoughts and your decisions. So similarly, with regards to believing in God also, you have absolute freedom. God has given you the absolute freedom to choose Him or reject Him. So that is what freedom of belief is. We are absolutely free to believe or disbelieve in God. And it is God's will that we will either do one of this. God has designed our existence here for that purpose. Many verses in the Quran teaches us that. After committing our original sin, God gave us a chance to denounce our crime and accept His absolute authority. So this is the premise for it. The whole premise for predestination and our existence. This is the reason. After committing our original sin, God gave us a chance to denounce our crime and accept His absolute authority. So because the human race shows a weakness, a severe problem with understanding God, we were not willing to fully accept God's absolute authority. We displayed ego and we committed a horrendous crime. Because of this reason, we were all sent here. So we have this tendency to be egoistic, and that is the purpose of this existence. Why we are here? We are here for a correction. All humans are, but God knows fully well that not all will be corrected. In fact, God says the majority will go to hell. So God knows it beforehand. It's like you, for example, your child is riding a bicycle. The child, you're looking at your child and you know that your child is riding it wrong. And you know that the child will go and fall somewhere. Okay, you know it. But you allow the child to ride because you think, okay, let him fall. And he will understand that he's doing something wrong. So this is the same thing. For the child riding the cycle doesn't know it. He thinks that I already know how to ride. So let me ride. This is how it is. God, observing from afar, knows where we are going. He knows everything. He gave us this bicycle. He gave us our mind, everything. So he knows where we are going. But the child riding, just like the child riding the bicycle doesn't know what's going to happen. It has to actually ride the cycle and fall, then understand. So if I ride it like this is what will happen. So this is exactly what is happening in this world. That is why we are here. We all committed a crime, but most of us don't understand the gravity of that crime. So if God knows that, okay, this guy is definitely going to hell, let me just put him in hell. He could have done it. He could have easily put all of us in hell. Because he knows whether you're going to hell or not. He already knows. God knows everything. So then what's the point of this existence? Just like the example of the child riding the bicycle, the parent allowing the child ride, is because God wants us to see what the gravity of a mistake. But again, if the child is intelligent, the child will understand there's something wrong. That's why I keep falling. And then he will question everything. Why? What has happened? But that means the sincere person will examine their existence, whereas an insincere person will not. So either you will fall flat forever or you will learn how to ride a bike. There's only two outcomes. So this is the purpose of our existence here. We are here to simply expose ourselves. And so we will ask, okay, what is the point of that? If God already knows that I am destined for hell, might as well just don't waste time and put me in hell. But it is similar to what we see around us when we think about a criminal. If someone is caught red-handed killing someone, we could just hang him to death. But no, there is a justice system where everyone is given a fair and free trial. Why? To ensure fairness, to ensure justice. So this criminal, we don't put him immediately into jail the next day. We send him to the court. There is a lawyer to defend him, and there is an opposition lawyer and counsel also defending him, questioning him. And then finally a judgment is read to this person. If he is guilty, he is pronounced as guilty, and punishment is given to him or her based on the law. Similarly, when we committed this crime, God sent us here on earth so that we learn who we are. We learn, if you are a believer, this is a golden opportunity for you. Absolutely golden opportunity. And that is why God says in the Quran, when He revealed the Quran, He says it is a guidance for those, the muttaqeen, those who have taqwa. Because God knows that this will only guide those people. Although everyone has access to it. Even the disbeliever can touch the Quran, can read the Quran, can sleep over the Quran, can do everything. but it doesn't guide them. Why? Because it's specifically meant for the sincere souls that are here. So that is the reason why God says that. So the whole idea is that to give everyone a fair chance, even the disbeliever, the staunchest of enemies of God, are given a fair chance. So when they go on the day of judgment, when they are given, the record is given to them, they cannot say that I don't deserve hell, because it will be evident for them that they deserve hell. In fact, they will be so full of remorse that they will ask God, please give me one more chance. Next time I'll do it better. So this is what we are. So basically what we are here for is to simply expose ourselves. What my qualities are, God will expose it to me. What your qualities are, God will expose it to you. And for that purpose, God has placed each person in a particular situation. So if you have to be exposed as a strong believer, there's a life that is in accordance with God's wisdom. God designs your life in that way to expose you as a very strong believer. Or if you are destined to be a disbeliever, then you are put in situations which will simply expose you as a disbeliever. So God gave us a chance to denounce our crime and accept His absolute authority, but we decided that we wanted to see a demonstration of Satan's competence as a God. Many people protest the fact that God has created them to put them through this gruesome test. Obviously, such people are not aware that one, they have committed a horrendous crime, and two, that they were given a chance to denounce their crime and redeem themselves, but they chose to go through the test. So we are not here by accident. We consciously chose to be here, although we have no recollection of it, we don't remember it. But we are here because we chose to go through this test. We learned from 57:22 that our lives, along with everything else around us, are pre-recorded on something like a videotape. God fully knows what kind of decision each of us is destined to make. He knows which of us are going to heaven and which are going to hell. Even before we were born into this world, God knew which souls are good and which souls are evil. As far as God's omniscience is concerned, we can imagine a stamp on everyone's forehead that says heaven or hell. So basically, predestination is that your destiny is already sealed. Now the obvious question you will ask is, then what's the point of this? I mean, like, if I'm destined to go to hell, but like I said, it is simply God knowing that you are destined for it. So it's simply like you observing a child, and you can see that your child is riding the bicycle in a very wrong way. You know it already that the child is going to fall flat on its face at some point, somewhere. So you knowing it, but if you look from the child's perspective, the child doesn't know. So the child is testing it, falling down, testing again, falling down. So, and that is the simple concept. Then guidance comes. For us, guidance comes. Now guidance will make sense. Again, if the child keeps falling, the child will wonder why I keep falling. Then it will ask Dad, why do I keep falling? So the guidance will come. But if it is an egoistic child, what will be the result? No matter what the parents say, it will not listen. Similarly, this is the same condition with us. We are here for that. So if you are a sincere soul, your existence here is simply to clean yourself up from the egoistic nature and end up in heaven. If you are a very egoistic and staunch disbelieving soul, then obviously your end will be in hell. So that is why it is a pre-recorded video. Why you were born in a particular condition, why you had this sort of family, why you had this sort of nationality, why you had this sort of, it is all designed for your end result. So what is the benefit of knowing that? That is why is God teaching us this? That is what we need to understand. Yet as far as we are concerned, we are totally free to side with God's absolute authority or Satan's polytheistic views. Predestination therefore is a fact as far as God is concerned. not as far as we are concerned. So just as the parent watching the child riding the bicycle wrongly knows that it's going to fall, it is a fact for the parent, but not for the child. The child is riding the bicycle. Similarly, so that is the same thing. This understanding explains the numerous verses stating God guides whomever wills. That is the purpose of why we should know predestination. Because if there are many verses where God says that where God says "Ma yasha," which means like whomever He wills. So it is very vague. I mean, like, what does God mean by that? Whoever He wills. So predestination sheds light into that. It gives us an idea of what those verses means. Inshallah, we'll continue the next khutbah. Alhamdulillah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Praise be to God. I bear witness that there is no God but God, and He has no partners. So this understanding explains the numerous verses that's stating that God guides whomever He wills and misleads whomever He wills. So this is not just about guidance also. All verses that you see about God, God says God provides for whomever He wills, withholds from whomever He wills. Many such verses you can see. Based on this knowledge, God assigns our souls to the circumstances that we deserve. So, if you were born in a particular family, if you were born in a rich family, poor family, in a particular country, in sub-Saharan Africa or in Switzerland, it all depends on the condition of your soul. It's simply to expose you, simply to expose to you who you are, so that on the day of judgment, when there is a fair trial, the record is there. God knew it all along, but instead of putting you straight to hell, He gave you a fair chance, so that you on the day of judgment cannot say, I'm not guilty. It will be very evident to you that you deserve to either go to heaven or hell. So this is why God has put us in these circumstances. So what is the benefit of this, knowing this? We should never be, if you are a believer, this is good news for you. Yes, knowing that you are simply being placed in this particular circumstance to grow, to get out of your egoistic nature and become a gem, a great believer, then this information is good for you. Knowing that, okay, I was born in this particular situation, I had to go through these kind of things, I got only this, or I got more than what I wanted, or many things. I was born in a good family but a dysfunctional family. I was like this, I went to this school, all of this was for one purpose. It's simply to bring out the best out of you, if you're a believer. So for a believer, this is good news. But if you tell this to a predestination to a disbeliever, they don't want to hear this. They will never accept the fact that they were born into a particular situation because they deserved it. They'll say, no, I didn't deserve it. Who are you to tell me that I deserve it? So that means that person is resisting something that God has planned for them, which means they are in a state of disbelief. So this is what this appendix is clearly saying. God assigns our souls to circumstances that we deserve. When God said to the angels, I know what you do not know, 2:30, this meant that some of us deserved a chance to redeem ourselves. So this is very powerful, that verse 2:30, where the angels asked, just like you mentioned earlier, the angels asked, okay, why are you doing this? Why do you have to put this the Satan as a Khalifa on earth? He will make a bloodshed on earth, cause a lot of misery and suffering and chaos. So obviously that was because the human being would be tempted, would be controlled by Satan. This is why the angel said, don't put Satan as the Khalifa. But God said, I know what you do not know. What God was trying to tell the angels was that not all of them will follow the Satan. There are sincere souls who will submit to God alone. So, in order to separate the believers from the disbelievers, those who are destined for hell from those who are destined to go to heaven. This is the purpose of this existence. I know what you do not know. This meant that some of us deserve a chance to redeem ourselves. So some of us, we don't know who was meant to redeem ourselves. So this is an opportunity for us. So predestination is good news for a believer. They know, and they have no reason to be upset about why I was born, I was born like this. Why I did not have $1 million? Why that guy has $1 million and I don't have anything? Why? This kind of question. Why I was born very poor, or why I was born too rich but I have no parents who love me, or why all my friends hate me, or why I'm so ugly, or why I'm too short. Everything is designed by God to simply expose us. So God is telling us that we shouldn't, this news, this predestination gives us calmness to our hearts, knowing that this is all God's grand plan to simply help us. If you're a believer, you'll be happy about it, and you will not object to anything, whatever happened in the past and whatever will happen in your future. So that is why in traditional Islamic circles also they say qadr. You have to believe in your fate. You see. And what they mean by that is predestination. And everything is already recorded. So you were recorded to be born in Iran or Kerala or Tamil Nadu or somewhere, wherever you were born. So one example of God's guidance for those who deserve guidance is found in 21:51. We granted Abraham his guidance, for we were fully aware of him. In other words, God knew that Abraham was a good soul who deserved to be guided, and God granted him his guidance and understanding. So clearly God is gifting guidance to Abraham. So one would ask, why? What about others? Abraham, just like the example I saw, Abraham was one of those kids, like those kids who fell off the bicycle and wondered why. He questioned everything because he was a sincere soul. So he questioned everything and he wanted answers. That's why he asked God for, show me how you revive the dead. So that curiosity was in him because he was very sincere. Other people are riding the bicycle and falling and again getting up, and they're saying 100 bad words to the bicycle and the man. So most egoistic people are like that. They never look inside. They look only outside and they blame everything else. So God knows this, just as a parent knows that the child is doing something and can clearly know where the child is going wrong. Similarly, God, being all-knowing, knows exactly who you are. So if you are a sincere soul seeking guidance, God will ensure that guidance come to you. You are meant for it. So that is what we see in the case of Abraham. God clearly says, because he knew that he was fully aware of Abraham. Fully aware means God knew the true condition of Abraham's soul. Abraham was a good soul who deserved to be guided, and God granted him guidance and understanding. So this is what we are all here to experience. Understand that we are simply here to be exposed as good believers or disbelievers. That's why nothing is unfair here. Everything is fair. It's all depend on the condition of your soul. Another good example is stated in 12:24. Joseph fell for the Egyptian nobleman's wife and almost committed adultery, if it were not that he saw a sign from his Lord. God teaches us in 12:24 that he diverted evil and sin from Joseph, for he was one of my devoted worshippers. So again, we can see another example of Joseph, of sin being diverted away from Joseph. Why? See, a lot of people are committing sins, but some people are doing it. Nothing is stopping them from doing it. It just keeps on going. As a matter of fact, it's so easy for them to commit sins. It's like, it's being given to them in a platter. They have multiple options to commit sins. Whereas some people who are sincere, good souls, at some point God will remove it from them. Because they don't deserve to be in that path. They deserve to be redeemed. They deserve to be guided to purity, to a sinless life. So because they are good souls, they may go through a period of misguidance, but they will be guided to the truth. This is the case with Muhammad also. Muhammad was misguided. He was an idol worshipper. But did God just leave him there? No. God chose him because he was sincere, chose him to be his prophet and guided him. So all these examples in the Quran tell us that we are all here with all our final destiny planned. So we are all going through this videotape of a life. All these circumstances that we are in is simply to expose ourselves. So if you're a believer, like I said, only believers can appreciate it. That's the difference. The predestination is bad news for a disbeliever, but good news to a believer. A believer appreciates it because it helps them to move forward in life. That he diverted evil and sin from Joseph, for he was one of my devoted worshippers. Was it Joseph who controlled his lust? It's a very good question. Joseph almost fell for it. He almost committed the sin. Yet something propelled him to be alerted that he is doing something wrong, and then he pulled back. So there is a clear intervention. There is something clearly intervening to stop him. That is a great blessing. Imagine you trying to do something and you were doing something wrong, and then even when us, most of us, we were worshipping idol worshippers. We were worshipping Muhammad, Jesus, and God knows who. But there was an intervention. At some point, someone was sent to take us out of that and bring us to submission. Because our souls deserve it. Deserving souls will always be guided. So that is why when we look at some people, we didn't be our closest relatives, but we can see that they don't deserve it. And that is why no matter what you do, it will not work. Was it Joseph who controlled his lust, or was it God's protection from sin that he rendered him chaste? Such is predestination. So that is why God says in many verses that he guides whomever he wills, he provides for whomever he wills. God knows the most deserving souls, and he gives us guidance also. He gives guidance to everyone, but guidance only benefits those, as the Quran itself says, who have taqwa, or muttaqeen, who are reverent of God. Who are not reverent, they are destined for hell. So may God guide us to appreciate the Quran and live our lives according to God's commandments, and never fail to uphold his absolute authority.